This is a Speedotron Blackline system. It consists of a pack, which is that big box in the middle, and the heads, or the flash units. Those are the three cones, if you will, that are surrounding it. These things are a little bit of a mystery to some photographers that are just getting started in Flash, or even to ones that may already be familiar with it. And I am going to talk to you a little bit about why I like to use them, as well as how you would go about getting them set up. Maybe this will help you if you're thinking about purchasing one of these. You'd buy it used. They're a really, really good value. Or maybe you would consider using one of these if you already are in a studio and you need some additional capacity or a different system to do the studio work that you're involved with. Hi, my name's Steve. I am an amateur photographer. I've been using the Blackline system or even the Brownline for the past 10 years. Believe it or not, it was my entry into bigger strobes, migrating or graduating, if you will, from the small pocket, flashes that take the AA batteries. When I got into this system, it was a little bit challenging to find information for me to decide if I wanted to use the pack. And then after I had the pack, how do you go about actually operating it? I had to dig through forums. There weren't a lot of YouTube videos. There weren't a lot of blogs on it. I think people either grew up with the system when they shot film and were professionals. I think people that were a little bit more casual or just getting into studio work. It's like a manual operated car. It's something that, there's just not a lot of information about how to go about using them. So that is the intent of this brief video. I may put out some additional ones that would talk about some further components related to it, but for now it's meant to be an overview. This is a more detailed shot of the top of the unit, and I think when you take a look at one of these things, a couple of things will stick out. One is there's no menu system, so everything is controlled through switches and buttons. And the other thing is that if you can get a hold of one of these and physically hold it, you'll notice that it's heavy, so it's definitely not portable. The box is primarily all capacitors. There's no battery in this. A lot of people would look at this and think that it's a battery pack. It's not. You actually have to plug it into household power. That's the same type of power that you would use to power a lamp or your television. Um, and the other thing that is going to stick out is how well it's built. The switches are really beefy. The knobs are really well made. So this system would have been kind of the pro photo, if you will, of its day. And its day would have been primarily when people were shooting on film. This would have been meant and was used in any major commercial studio or portrait studio, whether it was in New York, Chicago or LA, the main fashion photo centers during that time. It's meant for, um, being used 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year. Uh, and what that means when you buy them used is if you can find one that's in, relatively decent shape, they are so well built and so overbuilt that you can almost be assured that it's going to continue to operate and provide consistent power and provide professional control um, with a couple of uh, manual adjustments that I'm going to try to address or get into at a high level throughout the remainder of this video. So let's take a look at a little bit more detail in terms of how you would configure one of these. And for that, I've sort of isolated a couple of zones on the top of the pack. And I'm going to try to get into these and talk briefly about each. But the first and probably the the safety plug, if you will, is the power button in the upper right-hand corner. So this is a 1200 watt second pack. When you plug in the pack and charge it, that is an awful lot of power just waiting to be sent out to one of 4 strobes, depending on how many you plug into the sockets, those little blue round circles at the bottom of the photo. The process that people will talk about and you can read about is when you turn the strobes on, you want to first plug in the lamps. So plug those into the A channel, the B, or the C, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Those are the little red or blue circles at the bottom. You then want to plug in the power cable. The power cable is actually in the lower right-hand corner, and plug that into the wall. And then you want to turn the power on. And the reason for doing this is when you have the power turned on, the capacitors are going to get charged, and you want to make sure that the charge is flowing securely into the head. If you have the power on and then you try to connect the heads at the end, after turning the power on, you run the risk of getting what's called an arc. I've never had it. People talk about it. Sometimes people talk about it as a funny gag. So just as a best practice, you want to set it up with plugging in the lamps, plugging in the power cord, turning the power on. Likewise, when you turn it off, you just do the opposite. Turn the power off, unplug the power cord, and then take the lamps out. The next area to take a look at here are the buttons over in the red box on the left. They say at the top combine and then at the bottom isolate. They have letters A plus B and B plus C. So those switches are used to control how power flows to the sockets, if you will, down below, which are labeled, 2 for A, 1 for B, and 1 for C. And I'm going to talk about those in more detail. There's actually a diagram that you can download from Speedotron. So Speedotron, it's outside of Chicago. They're still in business today. They have manuals for their old equipment such as this. But I'll show you the diagram in just a moment. The other way that you're going to control power going to the flash heads is there's a global setting. It's in the upper left-hand corner. It's in the yellow circle. So you can globally set the power from full. You can go down a stop. You can go down to -2 stops. What that means is, if you have a lamp plugged into the A circuit as well as the B circuit, and you want to take the power down by a stop, both A and B, both of those lamps are going to come down by a stop. You can't isolate it to just A, B, or C unless you only have one lamp plugged into A, B, or C. But there's other ways around that as well. So the last couple of things here to talk about are in the middle section. There's a green rectangle, 3 knobs there. Those control the intensity of the quartz bulb that is used for the modeling lamps. So the quartz bulb, it's 250 watt seconds, I think. I'm not really sure. It's somewhere in that zone. They get really, really hot. I tend not to use them. But if you turn the modeling lamp on and there's a switch in the upper right-hand corner, it's at the top says model and at the bottom it says off. It's just to the left of the power switch. That then you can dim, if you will, those quartz halogen lights for the A section. So the knob on the left does A, the one that's in the middle does the B channel, and the one that's on the right does the light that you'd have plugged into the C socket. The last couple of things to talk about here is on the left side, there's a red button. At the top it says ready, and then it says push to flash. So what will happen is when your capacitor gets charged, that little red button will turn red. There's a light underneath it. And charging is quick. It can happen in a second or two. I don't really know the statistics on how long it takes to do it. To me, it seems very fast. If you want to make it even faster, then there's a switch in the middle of the top row. It's called fast, and at the bottom of the switch it says slow. It's just to the left of the model switch. Um, and that allows you to even recycle the capacitors quicker. Uh, some people would say that if you're in an older home and you don't have the most current, and so old, I would say something before 1970, although I don't really know. You run the risk if you have it on fast that you're going to be pulling so much power out of the home system that you might trip a breaker or you might blow a fuse. And so I always leave it on slow for the type of work that I do. The recycle time is plenty fast on slow. You can get more details in terms of how quickly it will recycle if you kind of dig into the owner's manual. And then finally, underneath the ready to flash is something called sync. And so with these heads, you need to find a way to fire the flash. And so you can connect a radio trigger to them. You can also connect like an infrared, a slave, if you will. Wien makes them. I might do a separate video on just triggers and how you connect them to these packs. But you can connect a trigger to the pack. One thing that's nice is you only need one trigger on the pack. You don't need to put triggers on each of the individual heads. The other thing that's nice about this pack system is that there really are no controls on the heads, on the flash units. And there's no capacitors in the flash units as well. So those capacitors add weight, which means that the light units are relatively light. And if you're flying them above your head, it's sometimes nice to have something that's very sturdy, which these are, but also lightweight, so you're not worried about having a lot of expensive electronics maybe come crashing down on you or on someone. The flash heads themselves, I think they run used in really good condition, maybe $80. I didn't know if I mentioned this or not. You can buy the pack for about maybe 70 to 100. I just checked this week. I live outside of Seattle. I checked in Craigslist, and that's kind of what they're going for these days. So it's kind of amazing. For a couple $100, you can get a professional system with a lot of power, a lot of different options. And you could also spend a couple $100 buying new equipment, but the quality, the consistency, the durability of it is it's not going to match one of these older systems. So the next slide here is actually going to be kind of the one of the biggest cons of using this system, and that is these are different charts that you take a look at when you want to control the power output coming out of the different sockets. So just as a way of reminder, the sockets here are in the lower, they're the blue circles. They're labeled A channel, B channel, C channel. So A would be for the capacitor related to A, B would be for the capacitor related to B, and C would be for the capacitor related to C. The buttons called combine and isolate, sort of in the upper left-hand section here, when you toggle those, they are going to either turn those capacitors on or turn those capacitors off. And you will be able to see that in a little bit more detail when we take a look here. So in the upper left-hand box, we've turned on all, A plus B plus C. So that means if I plug one light into any of these circles, whether it's A, B, or C, one light plugged in, I'm going to get the full 1200 watt seconds of power coming out. And that's a lot of power. And if, it's in simplest mode right now. If you had two lights, then each light's going to split the power 600 watts each. If you put in all four, you're going to split the 1200 watts by four, and you're going to get down to 300 watts. If you take a look at the box on the right, the upper right hand corner, we've turned off the A, we've isolated A, and we have combined B and C. So by that, the switch on the left would be set so that it's pushed towards the word isolate. So the A and B would be pushed towards the word isolate, and the B and C switch would, this photo doesn't show it, but it would actually be pushed towards the combine, towards the top section in this case. So that, again, we're on the upper right-hand box. And what that allows you to do is if you plug a lamp into A, it's going to get 300 watt seconds. If you put two lamps into A, you're going to split that 300 watts into 150 each. And then if you put lamps into B, one lamp's 900, two lamps are going to be 45 or 450. And so by toggling these switches into various components, and by spending a little bit of time trying to figure out, well, how much power do I need to go to each flash head, that's how you're going to split the power that comes out of this powerful pack. And the other way that you're going to adjust the power is kind of through the global setting, which is in the upper left-hand corner here, and that allows you to go down a stop all the way down to two stops. But that's a global setting, so that's going to impact, A, B, and C all equally. So if you're taking A down by two stops, you're going to take C down by two stops as well. So this diagram here and those switches that I showed you are one of the reasons that this system is kind of maybe fallen out of favor. It takes a little bit of time to get it set up. It takes a little bit of time to get the lights precisely to where you want them. Certainly in like a Pro Photo Strobe today, you have a dial, and you can actually run the dial from the remote, the trigger on your camera. On these, you have to kind of walk up to the pack. The good news is the pack can sit at ground level or on a table, so you don't have to worry about reaching up over your head if it's on the lamp. These aren't on the lamp. But you also then, to kind of get it more finely adjusted, you may want to do things like use a neutral density gel, and I might do a separate video on that. Certainly the modifiers that you use are going to take stops of light out, and the way you set the modifiers up and the distance of the lamp to your subject, physically moving the lamp closer or farther away is going to impact the power output as well. If you are in a studio, let's say you're doing food photography, you probably have a couple of light setups that you use over and over and over again. And so you're going to know the recipe, if you will, rather quickly to use those light setups. And if you are doing product photography, you may have a couple of different light setups that you use as well. But in my experience as an amateur, someone who does not do this day in and day out, it really doesn't take that long to get the lights and the power outage to where I want them. And what I'm finding, or have found, is that I'm learning a tremendous amount about different ways to control light. So using flags, using scrims, using different types of modifiers, how I place the light, the distance from the light to the subject. And these are all transferable skills that would work really with any kind of lighting system. And again, the main reason you might want to consider using one of these is they're really inexpensive and they produce professional quality results. So I may get into a little bit more detail in further videos in terms of different types of sinks. I may talk a little bit about the flash heads and maybe about some of the older grip equipment that I use, and that is also really inexpensive and works quite well. Things beyond, a brand new strobe and all the excitement that comes from buying a new strobe. You can pick up the older equipment and you can make it work, and you can save a fair amount of money as you go down this journey. Hope this helps, and I will talk to you later.